Hey, fellow traveler. Welcome to the Third Eye Awakening podcast, a show where we talk all about spiritual and psychic awakening, magic, the shift from 3D to 5D, star seeds, ascension, multiple timelines, multiple dimensions, the universe, the multiverse, the Akashic records, all the good things. I am your host, FB Belair, and I'm so glad to have you here with me today. Okay, let's do this. Hi, beautiful souls, beautiful listeners. Here I am on a Sunday at 3:33 p.m. my time with William, recording a spontaneous solo podcast episode, which I have not done in, I think it's been a really long time. Anyways, I almost don't even know where to start because I have this funny way of assuming that if I've spoken about something once, then everybody in the world has heard me talk about it and doesn't want to hear me talk about it anymore. But that's silly because obviously that's not how it works. And yet I don't know where to start because wow, things are overwhelming. Amy, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm talking about these really intense energies we are navigating. And this is spontaneous. This is unplanned. I don't even remotely have a script. I was going to sit down and do some other work. And I just was like, no, I need to record this podcast episode because, my friends, we are approaching something really massive, really, really massive. And I don't know what it is, but I can speculate, and I've chosen not to share my speculations over much because they are only speculations. But I will share a little bit of it here today, mostly for the purposes of helping you to hopefully feel less crazy, hopefully understand more of what's going on, and therefore be able to navigate it with more ease and grace. So for me, it really started like bam on July 31st. I have a beautiful group, a semi-private mentorship / apprenticeship group with some very gifted souls. And they were talking about, like in mid-July, talking about feeling like something big was coming in August. And I was like, I don't feel anything, but I think I was just in the pregnancy and postpartum bubble still, like sort of protected from a lot of this kind of stuff. And then on July 31st, just like it started to creep in, and it started as these like really, really powerfully empathic feelings of sadness and trauma and just like such an extremely porous sensitivity to the collective shadow festering trauma wound that is being carried around. And it was just like, oh my gosh, I was acutely aware in like hyper real detail of like just some of the horrors that people are experiencing in a way that I have not been in a long time. I shored up my boundaries, some years ago, and have been able to keep these energies at bay for a long time. But they're so powerful right now that I have not been able to keep them out. So I was just feeling like an awareness of the suffering that people are experiencing and the shame burden, the guilt burden, the regret burden, feeling the extreme wounding of the micro traumas that we carry, of the shitty things that our parents ever said to us, or our older siblings, or anyone of influence when we were children or when we were youths, or at any point in our lives, really, because we are all tender children on some level. And the way that those judgments get lodged in our psyche and crystallized as part of our identity, we carry, it's like these shards of glass that pierce our innocence and our worthiness And then we grow this scar tissue around it that holds it in place, and it never gets to heal. And an infection grows around it. And we carry this infection and this wound and this inflammation in our psyches and our energy bodies and our emotional bodies for our whole lives. And it completely influences every decision that we make, the way that we carry ourselves, the way we feel around other people. It influences every aspect of our lives. And yet so many of us just believe that it's like it's true or something. Just because somebody else ever said it to us, we believe that it's truth. And then furthermore, I could feel the sharpness and the precision of like the abuses people have endured and experienced. It's just like, oh, I felt like I was being so bombarded. And I know that I wasn't the only one. I was crying and crying. Like, I think I cried for about 8 or 9 days every day. And yet it wasn't because anything in my life sucked. I mean, it definitely, like, truly, I am postpartum. William is 5 weeks old. And so, I'm not sleeping through the night and all that stuff. But this is so much bigger than that, so much bigger than that. And I described it a few times. So forgive me if I am repeating myself now. I know I am. And if you've already heard it, but it felt like a massive collective unburdening of sin. And by sin, I mean just those things that weigh us down, those things that we feel burdened by, that we keep secret because we're ashamed or we're afraid that it's actually true. It just feels like the collective is releasing it so fast. And it's ugly. Like it's intense. It's sludgy. It's sludgy, heavy energy. I don't really know how else to describe it. Dense and mucky and murky and full of pain. And, it's literally my job. Like, I literally have created a business, if you want to call it that. Feels just more like a soul mission alignment around my psychic gifts and tapping into the collective energy. And so I'm always really aware of my energy and really aware of keeping it clean, maintaining strong energetic hygiene and boundaries, meaning treating myself well, thinking good thoughts, feeling good things about myself. And I don't mean fake positivity. I mean, like, just loving myself and giving myself grace, and then extending the same thing to other beings, having compassion for others, just not lingering in places of, anger narratives and disempowerment narratives. So I understood pretty quickly. Like, I think it was like within like half an hour of starting to cry that I was like, there's something up. This isn't mine. This doesn't belong to me. I can feel it. But I know that not everybody has cultivated that. And certainly for the majority of my life, I didn't have that awareness cultivated. And so I just really wanted to talk about it here, because you might be experiencing some of these things. And they could be, a psychic attack, or they could just be like incredible empathy, or not empathy, empathicness, because there is a difference, I think. But you might be experiencing them and not realizing what it is. So I'm hoping to offer you clarity and context, and hoping that you will feel kinder to yourself if you understand where it's coming from. If you were previously, thinking like that you must be doing something wrong in order to feel this terrible. I was even having thoughts of like absolute despair and hopelessness, which I almost never have, that all is lost. Everything is going to be terrible. There's no point in trying. I should just give up. And I know those thoughts are not mine. I know that is not how I actually feel. So what I feel like is happening is that we are shortly entering, I don't even know what it is. Something big is coming. something really big. And it could be the narratives that we have sort of been, that have been seeded into our consciousness, right? Around the virus and its variants, around the vaxxed versus unvaxxed, around race tensions, just all kinds of stuff, around financial collapse, around the New World Order and the fourth economic, or the fourth industrial revolution. Like, there are so many narratives that have been seeded into our consciousness, but I don't really fully believe in or buy into any of those, or at least I hold back on my judgment around it, because I know that those things are seeded into our minds because we will generally manifest what our brain already has a context for. So all I feel is really, really intense shift energy coming, like really, really big, monumental. Can you hear William? I bet the microphone is picking up on he's sleeping. I'm wearing him in the wrap right now, and he's just like, living his best life, being as close to mom as possible. Anyway, I just feel this energy of such a massive transformation. It's unlike anything that we have ever known. It is unfathomable, and it feels correct and purest to just let the energy speak for itself, and to not put too much emphasis on trying to predict what it is and how it's going to manifest. Because I totally believe that there's every possibility, and even maybe every probability, that it will manifest as something that, like, we have absolutely no frame of reference for, so we cannot possibly predict it. And I would rather let it be that. Because in my mind, all of those narratives that I just mentioned, and there are so many more that we have been seeded with through predictive programming, those narratives are very negative. And I believe that this isn't necessarily a negative shift. However, one thing that I do feel is a lot of death. And again, I don't know that it will be physical death. I don't know that it will be the death due to the virus, death due to the experimental genetic altering therapy that is meant to supposedly mitigate the effects of the virus and the spread of the virus. I have no idea. I don't think it will, honestly. I think that will play into part of it, but I just feel a lot of departure. And yet I'm also going through a really intense and profound ego death myself that reminds me of, like, what a big deal ego death is. So if you've ever had a child, particularly if you are a woman that has given birth to a child, you know that ego death just comes with having a baby, because you change and your life changes. So cute. You change and your life changes so completely that it's almost like you don't recognize yourself, and it takes time to, you just aren't who you were before. Even if you have the best birth, which I had, and an absolutely gorgeous, healthy baby, which I have, and everything is going really well, it's like your whole sense of identity shatters into a bazillion smithereens, and it takes time for those smithereens to reassemble back into a new version of yourself. So having a baby is an ego death on its own. And then I feel like I'm also experiencing an ego death that is part of this massive shift. And so I don't want to discount, I can't discount the incredible significance of ego death and how this departure that I'm sensing in the energy, in large part, I think will be ego death. And what does that even really mean? Like, what is ego death? And I'll give you my interpretation of it. It is that it's when your belief, your understanding of who you are changes so dramatically that you almost don't recognize yourself. And it is very scary. It's very scary to have an ego death because it often shows up as like the things that you used to enjoy, you just don't enjoy anymore. Like the shows you used to watch, they don't give you any entertainment. They fall flat. They don't resonate with you. The music you listen to just doesn't mean anything. You don't enjoy it anymore. Or the friends that you used to have, you just don't feel like you can connect with them. Or the types of conversations you used to share, just you can't do it anymore. You know, it's like, it's just those ways that we change so subtly and yet so drastically and sometimes so monumentally that it's almost like you can't find your touchstone, the things that used to anchor you into your everyday life, the things that you maybe took for granted that kept you feeling like safe insofar as you could sort of predict, like you had some level of being able to predict what the next day was going to bring or the next week was going to bring. And as those things disappear or shift, it just leaves you feeling like uncontained, like you're just flowing out everywhere. Like you don't know where your boundaries are. You don't know who you are. You don't maybe even know what you like. It's just a very disconcerting feeling. And I believe that the collective is going through a massive ego death, whether it involves physical death or not. And I was having a conversation within my apprenticeship group around somebody brought up walk-ins because she'd seen it in a video, and I knew what video she talked about. It was on the Higher Self channel on YouTube. There was somebody who recorded a video about possibly, thousands of walk-ins. Like, so your lower ego self dying and your higher dimensional self walking into your human body and picking up, which is really what awakening is, in my opinion. But that's just like a quantum leap awakening. It's like skipping, 100 steps and just like, oh, your human self has gone. Whoa, your like divine ascended master self is now occupying your body and making the choices and moving through your life as a human, but it's you. And I really love that. And I'm holding so much space for that possibility. It feels very alive to me. But there's also a lot of ego death in that massive unburdening of shadow. Now, I also want to say too that as much as I wasn't feeling things, like I knew that a lot of what I was feeling as I was crying those 8 or 9 days and just feeling all that grief and all that sin and like despair and things like that, I knew it wasn't mine. And yet I'm not above this. So I was tapping into the collective shadow. And I described it a few times as well as like, almost like I was performing last rites on people on an astral level, or if not last rites, I mean, maybe that's a little bit too dramatic. I don't know, but I felt like a priest in a confession box and like I was receiving people's confessions, but on an astral level, but also while I was awake, like not just when I'm sleeping. And I believe that this is part of that massive ego death that's happening, as well as possibly a massive physical death that is happening. But also, I'm not above it. I'm not above it. I'm here as a human as well. And I just really want to make sure that I never give the impression as I'm, offering this information on how on the guidance I'm receiving on how to navigate it, I don't want to give the impression that I have this shit all figured out. I have a good amount of it figured out, enough to navigate it. But I am a human and I have my regrets. I have my burdens. I have my shadow aspects that are not yet integrated. And part of what's happening too, as we go through these big ego deaths, is having our old shit triggered. And again, this is being validated by a lot of people that I'm in conversation with, like really, really spiritually aware and awakened people. So I'm having my old things triggered, old stories come up, pieces of things, painful memories that I thought were dealt with, but they obviously weren't, because there's pain there. And again, like if I wasn't so tapped into the collective energies and I didn't feel like I understood how to navigate this, I think I would think I was crazy. I mean, this is pretty much how I felt through my whole 20s, was like straight up Looney Tunes. And it was so hard. Like I wish it upon no one. And yet I know so many people are going through that right now. But yeah, it's like I would be in the throes of depression right at this moment if I didn't understand that this is part of something much bigger, and that our triggers are here to serve us. They do not feel good. Don't get me wrong. I don't enjoy being triggered. I don't. It makes me feel all kinds of vulnerable and cranky and weepy and just, like not good. But I know right now that as well, at all times, but especially right now, as something is being triggered, it's because it's ready to go. It's ready to go. And all I have to do is not push it away, not push those bad feelings away, not try and spiritually bypass them by, I should know better than this, and forcing myself to think happy thoughts, which PS, I always start out by doing that. So don't give yourself shit if that's your MO as well. My cycle is to, get triggered, not notice right away that I'm getting triggered, just notice that I feel like crap, and then question why I feel like crap, figure out kind of why I feel like crap, and then try to spiritually bypass it by being like, I don't have to feel this way. I can hold a positive vibe. Like I can get my vibe back up and trying to think about a bunch of things I'm grateful for and all that stuff. And then I remember that, like, no, that's just creating more resistance. It's making me more uncomfortable. It's prolonging the process. That this emotion that doesn't feel good is a friend. It's an ally. It's a messenger that has a message for me. And then I just relax into it and I give it space. And it's like, I receive its counsel. I open up to hear what it has to tell me, or to feel what it has to tell me. And I feel it and I let it be there for as long as it needs to, which usually isn't very long. And then it fades away because I wasn't, trying to keep it at bay. So I have to remember where I am in this long ramble. So I'm being triggered. Other people I'm talking to are being triggered. And it's all part of just letting go of all of these things that are bogging us down, because we cannot afford to carry them around anymore. Like we have to lighten this load, because we're going into something that is so big. It's so big. It feels truly unfathomable to me. And in order to navigate it, it's kind of like, I'm trying to use analogies that are not like so dramatic that they're going to exacerbate fears in people. And yet my brain is only serving me with scary analogies. But it's sort of like, say if there is, I don't know, a flood coming, or a mudslide, or a fire. I know a lot of people can relate to this, particularly the fires on the West Coast right now. And you have to evacuate. You are only taking your most precious items, right? Like you're only taking what you need, what you need. You can't take it all. There are so many things you have to leave behind. And it's kind of like that, but it's with our stories. Like we have to leave our burdens behind now, because the energy is changing so much. Something is about to change completely, like a point of no return. So I feel a lot of departure. A lot of it is energetic. A lot of it is our stories. A lot of it is ego death. I do believe a lot of it is going to be death. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, although, you know, it's always painful for those of us who are experiencing the departure of somebody that we know and love. So I don't ever want to minimize that. And yet I also don't want to feed into the lie that death is the end and that death is something we need to fear. It's like, it feels like an act of service. Truthfully, as much as we've had these ugly narratives kind of seeded into our consciousness to interpret these experiences, it feels like an act of service. Like the souls that go are going because they're going to be able to pull us through from the other side. So some of us can navigate this ascension and awakening henceforth through the physical embodied experience. And some of us are going to go through, leave behind our bodies, stay plugged in, stay engaged in this whole experience, and vibrationally, energetically pull through those of us that are dragging bodies with us, like our own bodies, not dead bodies. Those of us who are embodied in a physical form, you know, we move slower. Like the physical is the slowest. It has the most lag. It takes the longest to transform. So for those of us that are contracted to stay on Earth in human bodies, we are going to need help to pull us through the portal to 5D consciousness and above, because we can't, it's just heavy. Like the body is full of so much heaviness. It's reminding me of that, what was it, like ascension symptoms or something? Some podcast episode I did a few months ago where I just talked about like, what is this ascension sickness kind of stuff? It's like that. It's like there's so much density in the physical 3D vibration. And those who leave physical form, who depart, so many of them are contracted to do just that, and to go around. How do I describe it? It's like it keeps showing itself to me in these visuals. I'm sorry, this is like probably the most rambly fucking podcast episode I've ever done. Amy. Anyway, it keeps showing itself to me in these visuals. And so what it looks like is like there's this little narrow door, and we all have to go through this door. And if we are in a physical body, the only way we can get through is through this door. But there's also a bunch of like tiny windows with bars, and they're too small for the physical body to go through. But if a lot of souls leave their physical bodies, so their physical body is no longer alive, they leave it, the body is dead, it's not a factor anymore, then you can leave the body behind. And they can pass through walls, they can pass through those little windows, like it's so much easier for them. And they come around to the other side and they unlock the door and they expand the width of the door, they expand the capacity of the door to allow bodies to come through, like souls still in human bodies. And they also adjust our frequency so that our bodies become lighter and can pass through more easily as well. That's the visual that I'm getting. And then also, though, it's like as people die and as systems rapidly evolve and society rapidly evolves, like society's going through an ego death, the human collective is going through a massive ego death. It's just like, it's so freaking intense. There is also going to be a lot of ugliness on the collective that rises to the surface, and it is going to be hard to watch it play out. And that's the part I've been struggling with, is just like, oh my God, do I have what it takes to witness this? Can I witness human beings in their least exalted expression, in some of their lowest expressions, and still hold the frequency? And I know the answer is yes, but it has been freaking me out a little bit. But I know that we can, and I know that's the work. And I know that to be witness to something is an incredibly powerful healing act of service. Because when something happens in secret and there is no witness, it's like it cannot be healed and released until somebody else witnesses it and acknowledges it. And so for us to witness these things and witness it through eyes of love and hold the fucking frequency of love and anchor in as much light as possible, as much hope as possible, as much faith in the goodness of souls as possible, we allow those, those negative things that we witness to be transmuted and integrated in real time through our witnessing. But we must witness it from that frequency of love. We must witness it from that high frequency of light and compassion. And that's the work. That's the challenge. That is what we have been preparing for. And there's no way to get through this but to get through it. There just is no way. I know this is like, I always want to leave these beautiful high notes to end on, because I just do not want to contribute to the increasing fever pitch of fear that exists in the human collective right now. But this high note is a little bit different. It's a little bit different. It's that we were made for this. We were made for this time. This is why we are here. I believe with every fiber of my being that if you were magnetized to me, if you were magnetized to my podcast at all, it's because you are part of this shift. And the words that I'm speaking right now are instructions for you. They are guidance for you to hold the frequency, to love yourself through all of the negative things that you might be feeling, all of the pain, all of the triggers, all of the weird, random crying or anger or despair or whatever. Just love yourself through it. There's nothing wrong with you. You are beautiful. You are beautiful. We're just collectively healing, and the healing is speeding up. It's speeding up, and healing doesn't necessarily feel good while it's happening. But the results are worth it. Like, who wants to walk around wounded forever? I don't think anybody does. Everybody would choose to feel wholeness and homeostasis and healing. And just like optimal, patterning or whatever, optimal, highest, wholest expression of self. Everybody chooses that, I think, rather than being wounded forever. But the process of healing can be really uncomfortable at times. And I think that's what we're headed into. So how's that for a high note? I guess yeah, I guess my final thing to you is just, we're going into something really big. You are amazing. You are so important. It's like, it cannot possibly be overstated or overestimated. You are so important. The role you play here is absolutely invaluable. Thank you for being here. Your ability to hold the frequency, your ability to be with yourself through hard things, your ability to be with other people through hard things it's a tremendous gift. And yeah, I feel like I could ramble forever. I still have baby brain, and I just feel like my whole aura is so open right now. It's wild, but it also, I think, means that I'm even more rambly than usual. But I want to tell you that. So I recorded that whole thing about my offering rebirth, which I was very excited about. And then August 1st happened, and all those intense energies started happening. And I realized that everything is intensifying and changing, and this isn't going anywhere. And it kind of changed the rebirth offering. So rebirth has now been rebirthed wah, wah, into a membership called Lightcodes. And it still involves the light codes that were being offered through rebirth, because soul mission activation is more important than ever. But it just has a different sort of flavor to it now. Whereas before it was like, create the life of your dreams and do what it is that feels truly authentic to you, because, it's easy. It's easier than anyone ever allowed you to believe. And it was very like light and, I don't know, breezy and joyful. This one is has a little bit more oomph to it. When I was allowing myself to finally feel into this shift, I kept getting the words shelter from the storm, shelter from the storm. And this membership is sort of a vibrational shelter from the storm. I get this mental image of a storm shelter, and I'm inviting as many souls in as I can. And, of course, souls who want to be there and feel aligned. And we are going to hold the frequency together and navigate these intense energies together. While the chaos rages outside, we are going to allow it to be what it is. And we are going to be together through this and stay in our power, cultivate our creativity, hold the frequency, because we are so freaking powerful. We are so important. None of us is here by accident. We are here for this time, but none of us can do this alone. Community and connections are more important than ever before, more important than I ever realized. I keep reaching out to people all the time right now. And like, there's this, this small group of people that I'm like, wow, we just met this year. And I'm so thankful that I met you, because I know that we're supposed to do this together. I don't even know what this is, but I know that we know each other from somewhere else. And it was always planned for us to meet at this time. And that extends, to like the people in soul space, to the people who I'm in conversation with and interact with on Instagram, all the people I've shared podcast interviews with. There's just all my podcast listeners, whether we've ever interacted or not. We are not supposed to do this alone. So I have rebirth into this membership called Lightcodes. It is the storm shelter, where we are going to come together and hold the frequency. And I am going to channel light codes around soul mission activation and soul mission embodiment, as well as like the current energies and how to navigate them. And I've already received so much clarity on what we have to do to navigate this next part of the big, massive, completely humanity changing shift that we're going through. I also reduced the price because I just was like, no, this has to be accessible as I can make it and still maintain it. And it is no longer a 12-month commitment. It's month to month, because I know things are going to rapid change for everybody. So, you come and go as you need to. This is a space for you to exercise your autonomy and do what you need to do for yourself, but where I am going to really, really anchor even deeper into my soul mission, which is to be the North Star and to shine the light, shine the light, shine the light, and hold the frequency. And yeah, it's truly an offering from my heart to yours, because I love you deeply. And I know that what we are heading into is none of us is truly prepared. None of us is truly prepared. And yet, together we can navigate this as we were always meant to. Okay, my friends, I think I will stop there. I'm trying to think. I'm just doing a quick little mental inventory if there's anything else that I wanted to share about. I suppose I'll also say, though, that this is exciting. This is exciting too. It's daunting. I would be lying if I tried to imply that I'm not daunted by it, but it's exciting because we've been operating under false paradigms, under a shroud of lies for so long. And it's been at the tremendous expense of so many human beings, in the sense of at their physical expense, but most importantly, it's at the expense of their self-worth. It's just I don't know. Tragedy isn't even a word that can begin to articulate just how messed up this whole thing has been here on Earth for a long time. And it's exciting to be moving into the complete shift of that, the complete alteration. And yet it is scary too, because, there are a lot of things that we've gotten used to that it's going to be hard on us to watch those things disappear or transform. But none of those things are things that we ever needed in order to be okay or in order to be ourselves. And we are capable of releasing so much more than we realize. We are absolute magic. We are magic beings. And what's shifting is the lie that we are herpy-derp muggle humans and that we just have to live this herpy-derp life. That is what's shifting. There's so much beauty available to us through this process. And on the other side of it, it's like a collective medicine journey, legit, like a collective psychedelic, deep soul retrieval, shamanic journey. And yet, there is the purging part of those journeys, isn't there? There is the purging. Or so I'm told anyway. I've never done ayahuasca, but several friends who have done a lot of it and tell me about it. And apparently there's always this purge process. I know that was true for my birth with William, which was its own medicine journey. And there is the purging, you just, in order to really, truly receive the clarification and the beauty and to emerge into the crystalline vibration, we must purge all that is ready to be purged, all that has been burdening us. I guess that's the last thing I'll share. I'll round it out and share the very last little thing, which is that a private mentorship client asked me, I I guess it was last week or maybe the week before. Anyway, she asked me what this Lionsgate portal was going to mean for her. And I tuned in to her Akashic field, and the guidance that I got, I knew it was for her, but I also knew it was meant to be shared with everybody. And that's where I got this analogy of the purging and the medicine journey, because, oh dear, he's going to wake up. Because I was shown that we are going to see things with a level of clarity that we have not seen before. And it means that we are going to see the ugliness with a level of clarity. We are going to see it with our physical eyes as well as our third eye. That our vision is going to be cleared off for us. And we are going to see things, like really see them. And some of it is not beautiful at all. And yet, it's going to activate our third eyes. It's going to activate our spiritual vision, like with our physical eyes, as well as our third eye. And it's also going to, expand the portal of our heart. And as we see and acknowledge all of the ugliness and behold it with compassion and love, we are also going to see a level of this like crystalline beauty that we were not previously able to see. It's almost like, as I talk about this, it's like, I don't know, it's like a camera lens. Like, it's like the difference between like a point and shoot on a manual setting that just kind of gets these flat pictures versus having like a telephoto lens that, and being able to adjust it like with a fine dial so that you can suddenly pick up all of the intricate beauty of a butterfly's wings, or, the individual cells of a flower petal or something like that. It's like, there's so much crystalline beauty here that here everywhere, not just nature, everything, everywhere around us, that we have not had access to previously because we were seeing everything through a veil of bullshit lies that kept our vision. It's like there's a film over our physical eyes and a film over our third eye. And this whole process is going to squeegee that all away. It's like windshield wipers are going to squeegee clean our physical eyes and squeegee clean our third eye. And we're going to behold ugliness, like, just ugliness. But we are also going to behold absolute beauty. And we're going to be able to reconcile those two seemingly diametrically opposed, polar opposites, and hold them in a frequency and a vision of love and grace that allows us to completely see through the illusion. And the beauty is absolutely ecstatic. Like, I keep getting these tiny glimpses of it, and they're just fleeting, flashy glimpses. And when I think about that and anchor into that and orient myself towards that, it just actually makes me excited for all of this. So, okay, that's the high note that I was searching for. That's the high note I'm leaving you on. The rewards are beyond my ability to describe. Like I said, I see these flashing little glimpses of them, and it's breathtaking. It's beyond. So, my beautiful brothers and sisters and kin, thank you for being with me on this journey. Thank you, as always, so much from the bottom of my heart and soul for listening to this podcast. If you want to join me in the Lightcode's membership and, receive basically all of my channeled downloads around all of this and really activating and embodying your soul mission and how to navigate this next phase and beyond, then please join me. If that doesn't feel aligned for you, no worries at all. I love you so much. I will make sure this podcast is always free. You can find the link to Lightcodes in my bio to check out the webpage and just find out the details about it. And yeah, I think that's it. I love you all.
Hello, beautiful being of shadow and light. If you loved this episode and you want more, you can join my new membership, Lightcodes. This membership is the place where you will receive all the light codes that I am channeling on how to navigate the intensifying energies of this next phase of the rapid awakening and ascension of the human collective consciousness on Earth. But also all the light codes on how to step into our highest selves, to activate our soul mission, to harness our magic and power as creators, and to manifest the highest timelines for ourselves and for the collective. To find out more information about light codes and all the ways to work with me, see the link in the show notes or visit amybelair.com. Thank you so much for being here with me on this episode. I appreciate you more than my words could ever say. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe, and share, and I will catch you on the next episode.